message leaves the royal capital of Susa at dawn, carried by the first of many riders waiting at the station. 7 days later it arrives in Sardis, 2,700 kilometers away. This is not legend, this is documented. No single horse carries a rider 1,400 kilometers. That is not how this system worked at all. Darius the Great built something the ancient world had never seen, a state-funded, state-maintained relay communication network. From the mountains of Anatolia to the Persian Gulf, 2,700 kilometers of engineered road and relay stations. Relay stations placed every 25 to 30 kilometers. Fresh horses, new riders. The message never slowed or stopped. The system operated day and night, through rain, heat, snow, and darkness. Nothing interrupted it. Nothing was allowed to. A Greek historian witnessed this system operating at full capacity. He was the enemy of Persia. He documented everything anyway. The road was built on stone foundations, wide enough for 2 carts to pass each other in opposite directions. This was not a merchant trail that grew organically over centuries. It was a deliberate act of state engineering. Thousands of workers maintained it year-round. Stable masters, blacksmiths, fodder suppliers, all salaried, all recorded in tablets. The expense was historically unprecedented. Only a centralized empire with vast administrative resources could have sustained this at all. Darius built this road to hold his fragile empire together. Communication was power. Speed was the entire nervous system. The Romans came centuries later. They encountered this system, copied its essential model, and took full credit for the invention. Ask anyone which civilization built the first organized postal network in all of human history. Rome gets it. Darius gets silence. Herodotus of Halicarnassus was Greek. He wrote for Greeks who despised Persia, yet he described this system with complete honesty. He had no incentive to praise Persians. He wrote for audiences who considered them the barbarian enemy of civilization. He counted the relay stations with precision. He measured the distances. He described the riders, their routes, and their schedules. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stops these couriers from completing their appointed rounds with speed. Those exact words were later attributed to Rome, to a postal service built centuries after Persia had invented the concept. There is a building in New York City, the James Farley Post Office, built in 1913, stone columns, grand entrance. Above the main entrance, carved into the marble facade, are the precise words Herodotus wrote about Persian royal couriers. There is no attribution beside them, no credit to Herodotus, no mention that these words originally described a Persian system. The official motto of the United States Postal Service came directly from a Greek historian describing a Persian innovation. In 1952, archaeologists excavating Persepolis uncovered over 30,000 clay tablets buried beneath the palace foundations. These tablets were not royal declarations or war records. They were receipts, meal logs, and supply records of an empire. Richard Halleck spent decades translating them at the Oriental Institute in Chicago, and what he found was entirely unexpected. The tablets documented exactly what Herodotus described, station by station, rider by rider, day by day across the empire. Food ration records show 3 to 4 meal rotations daily at each station. Riders were constantly eating, then riding onward. Historian Pierre Briant published From Cyrus to Alexander, the definitive account of Achaemenid Persian administration and its full scope. Briant demonstrated the postal network was not luxury or display. It was the actual nervous system of the entire empire. The road connected provincial governors directly to the king. Station logs carried their reports across thousands of kilometers reliably. Tablet records suggest annual operating costs equivalent to feeding an entire province. No empire sustained this without complete commitment. Return to New York City, 1913. Architects wanted classical inspiration for the new post office building on 8th Avenue. They found Herodotus's description of Persian couriers. It was classical, memorable, and exactly the kind of statement they needed. They attributed it to timeless postal ideals, not knowing or not recording that these words originally described a Persian system. The entire Western postal tradition rests on a Persian foundation that was erased before the tradition itself was ever named. But why was this forgotten? How does a system that sustained an empire for 2 centuries vanish from historical memory? Near Sardis in Turkey, Archaeologists excavated intact remains of the Royal Road's surface, confirming its scale and precise engineering. Near Gordian in Anatolia, relay station remains were found that matched the Persepolis tablet descriptions in exact structural detail. In 2008, an excavation near Persepolis uncovered a way station that matched the administrative records with no contradictions. Equipment recovered at station sites matched tablet descriptions exactly: saddles, feed stores, water troughs, and dedicated rider quarters. Official royal seals found at station sites confirmed that every message was authenticated at each relay point along the route. Modern GPS survey confirms that Herodotus's distance measurements were accurate to within 2% of the actual distances. With relay stations every 25 kilometers and fresh horses at each, 7-day delivery across the entire empire was entirely routine. The road climbed mountain passes and crossed river valleys without compromise. Its engineering adapted to every terrain along the way. Tablets show consistent orders for road repairs and station maintenance throughout Darius's entire reign, confirming continuous operation and upkeep. 331 BCE, Alexander crossed into Persia. The largest empire the ancient world had known began to fall. Alexander burned Persepolis, the administrative capital. Records accumulated over 2 centuries of empire turned to ash in a single night. Alexander's historians recorded the conquest. They deliberately reframed the Persian narrative to serve a Greek story of triumph. Persian efficiency became Persian softness in their accounts. Persian infrastructure became Persian excess. The inversion was complete and intentional. But the road was too functional to destroy. Generals kept it operating exactly as Darius had originally built and maintained it. The Seleucids absorbed the road into their empire. They called it theirs. They made minor improvements and claimed full credit. The Parthians controlled it in sections for centuries. By then, the Persian origin had dissolved entirely into assumed infrastructure. Rome built the cursus publicus, its state courier network. But it followed a path Persia had worn 5 centuries before. Roman sources claimed the model as their own. Greek historians had documented the Persian system but left it buried as background. Medieval scholars read Greek and Roman texts almost exclusively. Persian writings stayed locked in undeciphered cuneiform for over a millennium. Cuneiform was not translated until the 1800s. By then, the Western historical framework was far too established to revise. Textbooks were written. The Roman postal system was taught as the first organized state communication network in recorded human history. Each generation cited the previous generation without questioning the source. The error propagated forward. Darius disappeared from the story. Greece and Rome won militarily. Their narratives dominated Western historical imagination for 2,000 years. What preceded them was quietly erased. The road still exists in Turkey and in Iran. Stone foundations, water channels, way station outlines pressed into the dry earth. Millions pass the James Farley post office each year. They read those carved words and never wonder whose words they are. This is one story. How many other systems of thought and engineering were buried under the accumulated weight of conquest? The silence was not accidental. Each generation chose sources that confirmed what the previous generation had already decided to believe. The message crosses the empty road at dawn. The road remains, and so does the record of who built it.